Hello and welcome to episode 19 of the Ademola Bookmen Podcast. I'm joined with my co-host, John Coughlin. Hi, Johnny.
Hi, Al. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, fella. And this week we are doing Robbie Fowler, my autobiography. Not a great name. Not a great name. What would you have called it, Johnny?
For God, obviously.
Yeah, he should have just called it God, shouldn't he? That would have been a much better name.
Yeah, and
That's his nickname. He wouldn't have even been like dodgy. Yeah. Mr.
God's
Trick
country, God's name, whatever you want, There's so many.
In God's name.
Yeah.
Johnny. I tell you what, though, if they had called it In God's Name, they would have had to make a better book, wouldn't they? Oh, God's name. Oh, it's just fucking fairly mundane. Yeah, well, there's a little insight into my views on this book. So, this book was written in 2005.
Yeah, like he was still playing. He was just re-signed for Liverpool. So we missed the Australia days, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the Thailand days. Now that I could have got on board with. Should we go back to the start, Robbie?
Let's go right back to the start, because, that's the thing about this book. He's just a kid from Toxteth. If he just says that once in the book, he must have said it 200 times.
Oh, he's from Toxteth. I don't know if he meant. Oh, I must have missed that. Yep, yeah, he is very much from Toxteth. I think everybody knows that about him. He moans about being called the Toxteth Terror.
What would you prefer as a nickname? Toxteth Terror or God?
Yeah, God. It doesn't get better than that as nicknames go, does it? It really doesn't. If your mate started calling you God, I'd like it. You used to call me God, didn't you, Johnny, back in the glory days?
Of course, yeah, of course.
No, you didn't.
What are your memories of God, of Robbie Fowler?
I am a big God fan. No, I genuinely always really liked him, even as a kid, even though he played for Liverpool. I just thought, yeah. I mean, he's a lovely story, isn't he? He's got that cheeky little face. I think his little face always endeared me to him.
Isn't it funny how I guess most people would agree that in their prime, Owen was probably a better player, but even before Owen's departure, Fowler was always more liked, wasn't he?
Oh, man. And if you said to me, you can have Owen in his prime or Fowler in his prime playing for your team, I'm picking Robbie Fowler all day and all night, mate. All day and all night.
Why is that?
Just because he's got that lovely cheeky little face, like a lovely cheeky little face. Although I probably don't like him as much as I used to like him before I read his book, to be fair. I dislike him now, but as a player, though, he was magnificent, right? He was magnificent. He was a terror. I mean, that was the point. He was bezzing around, like just finding trouble, all right. And, defined by goals, right? Nothing else. Goals, a pure finisher.
He made me cry when I was young. You'll recall, it's obviously in the book, when Cantona returned from the suspension for kicking the fella in the crowd and Nicky Butt scored to go ahead. Like, I love Cantona so much. So what was that, 1996? So I would have been 12, say. And I loved Cantona. And then that day, Butt scores, they go ahead, and then Robbie Fowler scored 2 goals, and I was bawling my eyes out as a 12-year-old. And then, of course, the other God, Cantona.
Really gave you the opportunity to have that moment, didn't it, I suppose?
Remember they had this white and green jersey that was kind of in quadrants?
Yes. Yeah, it looked like green and white marzipan.
Yeah, like a kind of a... What's the name of those cakes?
Not marzipan, yeah, I mean, that cake, which has marzipan in it.
It's got like a place name.
Battenberg.
Battenberg, very good.
All right, green and white Battenberg.
Yeah, it was a green and white Battenberg jersey.
Thank you for tuning in, listeners. It made me cry. Why didn't fucking Venables bring him on against Germany in the semi-finals? Why didn't you make a substitution? Why? He was just sat there on the bench, just sitting there. Go on.
Crazy, really. This book suffers from an honesty problem, doesn't it? Like, I think he did his own legacy a disservice with this book in a way, because his image is of a bit of a badass and a kind of a cool, like, kind of fellow who doesn't care, but he whines an awful lot in this book. And I'm not sure I was fully aware of this thing is like whatever this reputation that like whatever these rumors that he was on drugs, but by God, does he go on about that? It's about half the
Yeah.
book.
Well, it is a full chapter, isn't it? And it's a full chapter dedicated. You just have to say, it's one of my least favorite sayings, but the lady doth protest too much, doth she
Yeah.
not? Like, just say there was never anything in it. Like, it's completely untrue. I'm a professional footballer. End of. But no, 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 no. I
Oh,
definitely
no,
didn't. Oh, no, no. There's a time when I looked like I was doing, but I wasn't. And another time when people said I was, but no, no. This
no.
book is funny. He says he was the first ever Premier League star, and I think he's right.
He just beat his own drum a bit on that, doesn't he? Keeps comparing himself to Rooney kind of favorably, and whatever, fine. But don't you leave that to other people? I was this before Beckham. I was this before Rooney. There's a lot of that, isn't there?
Well, it's just interesting from a perspective of just this Rooney is this young little upstart, like, whereas of course now it's just the old man of football, isn't he? Like, looks older than Robbie Fowler now.
Yeah. Fowler is interesting, and his story is amazing, as you say. But this book should have been half the length it was, and he should have just remembered how people see him. Obviously, when we talk about these books, we want people to be honest, and there is interesting stuff. We'll get to it. Ericsson, Julia, that's interesting. But he just should have just remembered that people think he's a bit of a badass, and he should have just tried to keep that going, I guess.
For me, this book, more than anything else, is defined by regrets. And of course, he writes, "Oh, regrets. No, 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 I'm not going to." I think he's absolutely full of regrets. At his timing of his leaving Liverpool, obviously, he's very sad about the injuries that ruined the second half of his career. Because if he had gone on like he started, he would be indisputably one of the greats. And now I feel he's a bit of a forgotten man, really. Obviously not at Liverpool, but he made no footprint on England, the England team.
26 caps.
And 8 goals. Yeah, nothing really. And if you think about it now, he'd start for England if he was a player. I think he probably would. I think he'd play him.
Nice.
But the point being, he just came along at a very bad time. And he made some bad decisions at the wrong time.
Injuries were obviously what put pay to his career ultimately, right?
Yeah, injuries, and he just seemed to have a problem with his managers, didn't he? I don't know, the whole Houllier thing, blimey. I mean, we'll get onto that. I don't think we've read a book where somebody hates someone as much as he hates Houllier.
Oof.
But then he's prepared to suck up to Houllier like just 2 chapters later. I mean, he absolutely slates Houllier. I mean, really digs into him as well. Like, there's a story about him bringing dinner ladies in for Christmas lunch so he could cook for them. And like all the lads hated him for it. Like, I mean, really like pernickety things that will like genuinely like make him look bad. But then like 2 chapters later, he's like, oh, I could make nice with Houllier again. Apparently he was happy to have me back. So I'll happily go back. But just let me point out, I hate him.
And it's funny, it's always the dinner ladies. We've talked about this before. That's the kind of mark of a footballer, how much they like the dinner lady. And if Houllier is bringing the dinner ladies in to cook for his family on Christmas Day, he must be a solid gold shit. But okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about my autobiography by Bob Fowler.
I'm happy to point out at no point in the whole book does he refer to himself as Bob. At any point, does he? So that was all bullshit by
Roy Barton.
Yeah, Barton. More of his bullshit.
Well, what he does refer to himself as, did you know he was known as Robert Ryder?
No, I didn't. And that's a solid name. Robbie Fowler's a good name, and Robbie Ryder's a good name. He was blessed either way.
Robbie Ryder might be better because of the alliteration.
Robbie Ryder. It's a bit porn starry.
He's like an Irish porn star writer.
It's Robbie Ryder. Rubber Ryder. The sheathed porn star.
Yeah, okay. So he's from inner city Liverpool, and this is kind of his defining feature, as is often the case with people and their backgrounds, I guess. And he grew up as an Everton fan, which I think is a well-known thing about a lot. Actually, isn't it funny? Didn't they? All of the kind of Liverpool homegrown players, Steve McManaman, Jamie Carragher. What about Gerrard? I don't know about Gerrard, but they're
Gerrard was always Liverpool, but I think Owen was Everton as well as a kid, wasn't he?
That's remarkable, isn't it?
It is remarkable. Yeah, so big Everton family as a kid. His mum and dad were never married, right? But they're always good friends and live close by. He makes it sound a fairly idyllic childhood, doesn't he?
He does say at some point, when he talked about his own self doubt, he did refer to his parents' relationship as and it was kind of oblique, but he did say that at some point. But yeah, you're right in the sense that he does how he actually characterizes it when he's writing about it in the early chapters of the book. He seems to say he was very happy. So yeah, they kind of lived across the road from each other, but they weren't together as such.
There's quite a lot dedicated to his childhood, and presumably that's because he wrote the book when he was 30, so he needs some material. So there's a lot about the Toxteth riots, and I've got to say, Johnny, ignorant Bondi there. I had no idea. I didn't know about them. Did you?
No,
me either. Toxteth race riot sounds really hairy. Sounds like an important time in Liverpool's history. He talks about it not being racist around central Liverpool, but then we've read Barton's book, haven't we? So so that puts that in shade. But it was fairly idyllic. He never strayed from like his road or the road next door. He knew everybody he was growing up with. So he does make it sound quite lovely. He just lived down the road from Penny Lane, famed from the Liverpool song, and also why my dog is called Penny.
Oh yeah, it's nice. Early in his career, he was assaulted in a hotel. People said he had been doing cocaine in the bathroom, right? And there was this, and I guess he's a chip on his shoulder about being called a scumbag and a kind of some essentially from an inner city background and all the rest of it. So this is where the association with him doing drugs, that's what he says, that's where it comes from. And he shouldn't have bothered. Him doing that line, like getting down on the pitch and pretending to snort the sideline. He should have just said, "Yeah, fuck that. I'm just having a laugh," you know. But he really, really, really went on about the drugs thing. It was a bit mad.
Yeah, he really did. He took it personally. And he talks about how when he's called the Toxteth terror, that reflects badly on Toxteth. I think he's being overly sensitive, frankly. It's just alliteration. A word, by the way, he didn't know because he said both the words start with the same letter.
I think he was poorly advised by his ghostwriter.
Now, Johnny, I've got a little question here for you. He says on page 14, when I first played for Liverpool, I wasn't exactly Bamba Gascoigne. Now, I wrote down dated smart person reference. Who is Bamba Gascoigne, Johnny?
Oh, I had to look that up.
You did look it up. Okay. Yeah, I wondered if you would, because why would you know? Yeah.
Go on, remind me, who the hell is Bamba Gascoigne?
Well, he was the original host of University Challenge. And he pretty much was the byword for like smartness when like we were bowling around the schoolyard back then. Like, I mean, University Challenge, my God, Johnny, my God, so hard.
It's
so hard.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, I was like, one day I'll be able to get a classical music question. I don't know what I was doing watching it. It was just, there wasn't much to watch in the old days. I'll get a classical music question once, right? And it's yet to happen.
Yeah,
Not that I watch it a lot.
It's insanely difficult, University Challenge.
So who did co-write the book?
It was written by David Maddock, who writes for The Mirror, but Robbie Fowler also writes a column for The Mirror. So he does talk about having mates in the media. So I guess Dave Maddock must be one of his buddies. But I think he was poorly advised on this on a lot of levels, just length and the kind of things that he went into. There's some interesting stuff when he was when he was young, like this fella that he played with, this Frodsham. Have you ever heard of him? They've named
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, this Ian Frodsham. He was like supposed to be absolutely fantastic player, a young fella playing for Liverpool, and he passed away before he got into the first team. It's horrible.
Yeah, I
isn't
know.
It?
They named one of the training pitches after him, which I've got to say, classy touch, Liverpool.
Yeah.
How often you can say that?
Yeah, like it's just terrible. So the stuff that was fun. Oh, by the way, just on Steve McMahon bingo.
Oh, Steve McMahon. No, I've got a note there. There he is. Steve McMahon, fucking prick as ever, turning up. He's an arsehole.
Yeah.
He said he didn't bother him, but he did dig him out all the time and gave him a hard time. But Robbie didn't mind because he was happy. But it's interesting to note that grown man McMahon was picking on a small kid from the youth team. Because of course he was.
So it was Steve McMahon and Dean Saunders were wankers, but Tosh, who's Tosh? Al?
John Toshak.
No, Ian Wright. Ian Rush.
Ian Wright. What? Oh yeah, Tosh. Yeah, Ian Wright.
He's a lovely man.
It's not often you hear that. In my experience, when I've heard about Ian Rush, I've never heard him being a nice bloke. I've always heard him being awful.
Really?
I mean, that's...
My brother has a funny thing where he keeps running into Ian Rush. I'm sure Ian Rush doesn't remember my brother, but my brother...
Oh, he's got an Irish girlfriend, doesn't he? Or at least he did 7 or 8 years ago.
Does he? Yeah.
Oh, anyway, so there was a lot of deliberation about would he join Everton, would he join Liverpool? A lot of teams were interested in, but he'd always trained with Liverpool, and even when Everton came sniffing, he picked Liverpool, right?
What was it that made him so good? He says himself he wasn't the quickest, and obviously lost his speed over time.
Yeah, he also talks about having a weak foot as well, which I don't really remember. I always imagined him being good both feet. I guess I just didn't analyse him much of the time. He just was in the goals, wasn't he? He was in the right place at the right time. He wasn't one for spectacular goals, not at all. He was a finisher.
Yeah, and I think that was it. I think it must have been like movement and his sense of where the ball was going. That, that's what would have to set him apart. And I think that is what his reputation was ultimately, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think maybe that's fair because he wasn't a target man, eh? He wasn't going to hold the ball up for you, really. Yeah, there was a lot of things he couldn't do, but what he could do was finish.
Score them goals.
Yeah, I wonder if actually there would be a place for him in the modern game, really, because that's just not the sort of player that gets game time anymore.
If you scored 30 goals, you'd be fine.
If you score 30 goals, you'll be fine. Absolutely.
Yeah. How's your knowledge of Cockney rhyming slang? Did you know what mutton meant?
Oh, Mutton Jeff, Def. Yeah, I did know that. I wondered if that would be a little one for you.
Yeah, so Mutton Jeff was a cartoon, like a comic book. That's where that came from.
That was the name of a comic book?
Yeah. Mutt and Jeff, a long-running and widely popular American comic strip created by cartoonist Bud Fisher. The reason I say it is, and I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but Nelson Mandela was deaf. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. You see, there you go. That is a little insight.
Yeah. And that was early enough. Like, he was just out of prison, and Liverpool were on a pre-season tour when Fowler was young, and there he was meeting Mandela.
Yeah, he told him that Robben Island didn't have a sniff on Toxteth, eh?
Yeah,
and Nelson Mandela, excuse me, well, I wouldn't have heard him.
Yeah. The other thing that was amazing, keeping in the same tour, because they were in the southern reaches of Africa, was Grobbelaar talking about shooting men in the bush.
Grobbelaar, well, that doesn't surprise me one bit. He's a character, isn't he?
Well, the character is one word for it.
I never cared for him. I never liked his stupid face.
So he says that it was during Zimbabwe's War of Independence. He was going around shooting people. How many people did he kill? I couldn't tell you. Sounds like he killed many. Yes, this is why I've always lived my life for today. Can only say sorry for the past. I can't change it. Sounds like he was boasting on the team bus, the rest of the boys in the Liverpool team, though, according to Robbie Fowler. Because that's what he said. He said Grobbelaar was always going on about how many people he shot in the bush. Doesn't sound like he regrets it one bit.
No, it sounds like he's boasting about it.
So another one who's an absolute bastard is Phil Thompson. Did that surprise you? It didn't surprise me.
No, I think he's always had that reputation.
He has a face like that.
But I think he's come up before as being an arsehole, and particularly picking on the kids and stuff. It doesn't look good on him, does it?
So Fowler says exactly that. When he was coming up, Thompson would essentially call out young fellas and like tell them they were shit and that kind of thing. And one day Fowler was in one of the changing rooms and he had picked up a jersey, whatever it was, Ian Rush's jersey, and said, someday I'll play in the number 9 shirt for Liverpool. And Thompson overheard this teenager and was like, well, you're a piece of shit and you'll never play for Liverpool at all. Why don't you fuck off? You know what I mean? It's like, come on, man.
I mean, yeah, it was a story. And yeah, I mean, if it happened as it is written, then yeah, Phil Thompson is a scumbag. However, it doesn't really ring true, that story. The whole like, one day I'll play in this shirt. Like, that doesn't really sound like something someone really says. Like, it sounds like something someone says on TV. But Phil Thompson, yeah, awful. He really does come across terribly. And then but this is what he does. He couches everything. Oh no, he's a decent guy. I recently played with him in a charity game. He's a good guy. He's
He
an
does do that.
absolute arsehole. I mean, he just describes him as being a horrible, horrible bully. The thing is, if you're a horrible bully, you're not a good guy.
No.
Even if outside of a club, you're a good guy. Because we're thinking in the club, you're a bad guy. Phil Thompson, bad guy.
David Beckham, bad guy. He hates David Beckham.
Absolutely fucking hates Beckham, doesn't? Wow. I mean, wow. Wow. They used to talk about the divisions in the England squad, and there it fucking is, right? I mean, he accuses him of selling his soul. Oh,
Yeah.
I couldn't be like that to sell my soul. I mean, what did he do wrong?
He says, he's talking about Steve McManaman. He was the best player at Liverpool. He was not a biff or a busy bollocks like Gary Neville or someone who has sold his soul like Beckham. That was just like thrown in there. He didn't like elaborate or whatever, but there's a few of those ones he just throws Beckham's name in anytime he needs an example.
With fucking envy, right? I think I really get that from that. But yeah, absolutely hates him. There's no like, I get it, we play for different teams. He just fucking hates those guys, right? Every time Neville's name pops up, it's like, oh, we had a dig at him, but it's nothing compared with Beckham. He does not fancy Beckham one bit, does he? Really? No, really doesn't.
He hates him, seriously hates him. Anyway, he scored 30 goals in his first 3 seasons. And this was before he was selected by England, or around like in his 3rd season. Is that incredible?
Yeah, it really
like
is.
Michael Owen was playing for England when he was 17.
Yeah, absolutely.
He has a chip on his shoulder, as you say, and he's envious of the likes of Beckham and all the rest of it. But he does strike me as somebody who was it like managers didn't like him? Is it actually this Toxted thing? Is that why he's so pissed off? There's something there, like, why was he overlooked? Why was he mistreated? This is a bit of a constant, I think. I know I read the book and maybe that's how he cues it up in the book without saying it specifically, but surely he should have got more of a shake than that.
Yeah, he had the reputation as a scallywag, but having read the book, there are a lot more incidents than I remembered. There's very famously, there was the coke sniffing, goal celebration.
The Dockers.
Yeah, the Dockers. And that was in close proximity, wasn't it, as well?
But then he had a lot of scrapes outside football, like getting beaten up and getting attacked. That happened a few times.
Yeah, it did. It did. And the most damning one is the known drug dealer in the bathrooms in the Moat Hotel, right? That was the one where that was a big protestation there, wasn't it? Like, I was just a victim of an attack. And maybe he was. Just is very unfortunate that you were attacked by a known drug dealer in a toilet in a hotel where people would imagine you to be on a night out, Robbie.
Yeah, and he is a scallywag. Like there's a bit at one point, and this is later on, but he's got a problem with Julia, and this is related, I suppose, because it's this kind of reputation he has, where Julia has him in and out of the team. Julia, as we'll get to, is a bit of a pompous dick bag, but he asks Robbie to organize a night out, and Robbie gets pole dancers, I think he describes them as. He says, just as people do up and down the country every week, the end of their work week. It's like, do they? Is that what colleagues do together? But anyway, so yeah, that like he is a scallywag for sure.
Yeah, he's up to mischief. And again, this is, all part of being a footballer. And that is how he was taught to be a footballer as well. That's the way he learned. And so I think the increased professionalization of the game, the post-Wenger era, when managers started taking it a good deal more seriously, is when he dropped off. Now, that's not to say that's also to do with injuries and maybe not having managers who support him. But his talk of Houlier's training regime is frankly a little bit ridiculous and way too much. It's like, oh, you weren't allowed to laugh. I bet you were. I bet you just weren't allowed to fuck around. Like, that was the difference. And he just couldn't cope with it, would be my guess of the situation.
Well, that is an interesting way of looking at it, that maybe he was of the older school. Yeah, interesting.
I think, yeah, as soon as, post-Wenger era, that's when he dropped away. And I think that's when, when people start to ask you to eat properly, to drink less, and maybe he really struggled with that, but he's unlikely to say that in the book. He never talks about nutrition, right? And I know every other footballer talks about how they eat well and stuff. He never says anything about that. I suspect he just eats like he always did.
And he does.
And managers would perhaps not care for that. I'm only speculating, but that was my reading of the situation.
Yeah, well, you're talking me around as well. He owns horse races. He bought a golf club, like a golf course, not a pitching wedge or something. But he looks like a fella as well who likes a pint. I think he has that look.
Yeah, he likes a pint. He wants to go out and have fun. Yeah, he's every bit the cliche like 80s, 90s footballer. Every bit. Loved to own a golf course. Loves golf. Didn't like fast cars at first, but he does.
So in terms of the managers, he's very fond of Souness, who's the person who put him into the team. You see in all of these books that the author, the player, invariably, it just depends on how they were treated, right? If ex-manager treated such and such a fellow well, then they were a good manager. They should have been given more time, that kind of thing. And this is what he says about Souness, and this is what he says about Evans. But Souness, he said, just kind of suffered as a result of trying to bomb out an established team, John Barnes, Ian Rush, that kind of era player, Bruce Grobbler or whatever, and brought in, maybe had some bad buys, the likes of Julian Dix and people like that. But he says that he tried to change the club too quickly, and that was what did for him.
I mean, I can remember him jettisoning Beardsley and that being a big no-no. I think some of them people accepted had to go. I was only a kid at that time. I was about 12, 13. But I remember the Beardsley thing. I would go, why on earth did you sell him? Why? Also, it was a fun thing with Graham Souness at one point had to tell off Phil Thompson about how he was talking to the kids. And I think if Graham Souness is saying you're being too harsh, then you've really got a problem, haven't you?
Yeah, Souness does seem like an absolute bastard. He's likable, Souness, I think, but he's
as far as we know, that cat's done nothing wrong. My favourite quote in football in the last 10 years. Zuma.
Yeah, Zuma, as far as we know.
That's his analysis. As far as we know, that cat's done nothing wrong.
Oh, he's vegan, isn't he? Souness.
Oh, yeah, good for him. And he's a handsome man, isn't he, Souness?
Surprisingly vegan, swimming the channel and the likes. Yeah, and you know what you were saying, just in keeping now that you've kind of created a new kind of, painted a different kind of picture of Fowler, or maybe a more complete one. He loved Venables, didn't he?
Old
and
school.
I bet you Venables was the type of manager who will let you have a laugh.
Exactly right. It's like, yeah, go out, have yourself a steak and chips, lads. It's important. Tomorrow we'll work hard. Yeah, I bet it's exactly like that. And he can respond to that. He's really old school as well. I mean, when any manager at a team he's at starts buying foreign players, he's not happy with that, is he? He doesn't like the foreigners. It's like you've got to understand, to get a good team, you need to have a core base of English core. And time has shown us that is absolute bollocks. It's just nonsense, isn't it? It just isn't true at all.
He talks about his pranks at some stage, and that's always a bit of a red flag, isn't it?
Yeah, the pranks. Oh, the bloody pranks. Oh God, the pranks.
Why do footballers tell us about their pranks? It's never going to come across well.
Because they think it's fucking hilarious. Because they are overgrown kids who have been raised in the schoolyard. They're still in the schoolyard. But put me with a bunch of lads, I'd probably be getting up to that. There would be no excrement, though. I draw the line. Yeah, that's fucking it. Shit. I draw the line there. There's one who put some player who hilariously put a bit of shit in everyone's wash bag. I mean, someone beat him up. Who was it?
Steve Harkness.
Oh, that sounds right. Yeah, he was a laugh, wasn't he? And and there was one player. Oh, it was Collymore, wasn't it? It was Collymore. We actually got some sex in this book. And it was Stanley Victor Collymore sex, thank God. He was off with strippers in the toilets at the Christmas party. Go on, Stanley. I knew it would be you, lad. I knew it would be you. Thank you. So it actually was sex in this book. So well done, Robbie. And well done, Stanley.
One of the things was someone pissed in Razor Ruddock's pint, and Razor drank it and knew what was going on and just continued drinking it to show what a tough man he was.
Yeah, I got a mate like that. We did exactly the same. See, we did the same when I was a teenager, and he was just like, fuck it, got it down him. Just tastes like cider, he said. He's a very successful man now, I'm happy to tell you.
Okay, you mentioned him, Collymore. Talk about
Okay, so
Collymore.
Collymore is another one on the Robbie Fowler shit list. So the Robbie Fowler shit list is Houllier.
Houllier number one.
Houlier's number one. Phil Thompson, Sven-Göran Eriksson,
Huddle.
Stanley Victor Collymore, and everyone's favourite, Nicholas Anelka.
But Huddle as well.
Oh, Hoddle. They're all it's almost the same, isn't it? Everyone hated Hoddle. Who the fuck liked Hoddle?
Ian Wright liked Huddle.
Oh, Ian Wright liked Hoddle. He did, didn't he?
Tell me about Collymore.
Well, that's it. He was just a Billy Big Bollocks from the start. Now, you're talking about footballers that made you cry. Stanley Victor Collymore made me cry when he left Forest. He was the best player I ever saw play for Nottingham Forest, and it's not even close. Not even
Brian Roy.
He was substantially better than Brian Roy. He was. Brian Roy was a good player, but, I mean, Collymore could do things no one else could do. Like Forest fans will tell you, the season before he went to Liverpool, there honestly weren't many players on the planet playing at the level he was playing at. It was unbelievable. And, he could do it against the big teams. You remember he went up to United, scored an absolute screamer, beat United at United when United really were the Death Star. Yeah, magical player, but totally the wrong mentality, right? That's what he says. Just had to be the big fish in a small pond. Couldn't cope with not being.
Yeah, he seems like a bit of an asshole, and maybe he, in this kind of environment where you kind of have to all, get along together or whatever, like he kind of seems to have isolated and alienated himself a bit, right?
He has absolutely no interest in like fraternizing with his teammates, it would seem. But he apparently very shy, but apparently he wasn't shy when it came to women.
Yeah, it's kind of in a way kind of contradictory, right? Because he was just like hugely egotistical fellow who was also extremely shy, it seems.
Yeah, well, that's right. But also just a fucking total asshole. I mean, the strong room you've heard this that he slept with Roy Evans' daughter when he was there.
Oh, really? Okay.
How slanderous, but that's the famous rumor. And, as a manager, I mean, at that point, like, you're done, aren't you? You're done. It's just, you can't have that lad in your team anymore.
Jesus,
Anyway, that's only rumor, and goodness knows, we'll consult our lawyers on that. But that was a very strong rumor at the time. And anyone who knows Stanley Collymmore's antics, it sounds like in keeping with him. But anyway, just a wrong un, right? I think he describes it as a wrong un there.
He said essentially that Evans was good, but because he wasted money on Collymore, who it seems may have slept with his daughter, then the board didn't back him. And the team had kind of a good core of English young players and more emerging talents coming down the line with the likes of Carragher and Gerrard. But
it was a good team, wasn't it? It was.
Yeah, when the
names.
Yeah, when he listed the names, it was impressive. Although I hadn't thought of Dominic Matteo for quite a while, I must admit.
But you get to think about it quite a lot, eh? Because he pops up again and again.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, I'm talking about forgotten men, and not to the same extent as Matteo, but Steve McManaman. I never think about Steve McManaman now. He occasionally pops up on ESPN here, and he's an absolute dickhead. But as a footballer, good God, he was brilliant, wasn't he? He was. I mean, look, his stats were amazing. I forgot he was as good as he was. I really did forget.
They didn't win anything in England, right? That's it, ultimately, for those guys.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, this is the thing with Robbie. He won bugger all. And the only things he did win it was the Littlewoods Cup right at the start of his career.
And then that treble.
And then the treble under, who he really struggles to give any credit for at all, right? Doesn't he? I mean, he really does.
If the people you mentioned are kind of the people that he hates most, the people that he loves most, he loves McManaman, he loves Gaza.
Yeah, there's some good Gaza stories, eh? The whole smashing up the plane, coming back from 96. Obviously, this is legend to me, isn't it, Johnny? This is like my Saipan to you or something. But
right.
the whole legend of 96 and Gaza smashed up the plane because when he was sleeping, and apparently he never slept. Never. That's one of the things about Gaza. He never sleeps. He really is like a legendary character. He's like a final boss or something in like video games. Like, yeah. So apparently Alan Shearer, Gaza was asleep on the plane. Alan Shearer went up, slapped him as hard as he could when he's asleep because footballers. And then he blamed Fowler and McManaman and broke their TVs, and they got blamed for it. And they actually sued a newspaper, but no one remembered because why would they?
Everybody loved him. He sounds like the biggest pain in the ass.
I mean, everyone had one of those people in their group of mates. They were very young, right? And just like they were the laugh provider, but just like go home now.
I guess it helps if you're absolutely gifted at football, right? That must help. Actually, sorry, in the context of the English stuff, another one of his Beckham lines is he was talking about some ball. He ran on to the end of it and he said, I move faster than Beckham runs to a celebration when a striker scores for England. Like, that's totally and utterly gratuitous. Like,
I mean, total zing. And the thing is, with like 20 years perspective, guess what? Beckham's not famous for that at all. I mean, no one's like, oh, look at bloody Beckham. Wasn't he always that way? Glory hunter. Running around. No one thinks that. No one thinks that. You are just, man, he's got a problem with David Beckham. I mean, it must have been awful, the England squads, eh? Like, it was like, why don't they pick him? It's because he is arguably openly hostile. It sounds like he is. I mean, he absolutely hates Neville, and they must have played in the same England team.
Yeah.
I mean, how absolutely. Do you do it? I mean, that was fun, right? I mean, back in the day, that was fun that Liverpool and Arsenal and Man United all hated each other, and we miss that now, I think. We do, but crikey, to build a national side with players who literally despise each other cannot be easy.
Yeah, it's funny when he talks about United. He kind of ignores United for a lot of the book, even though United were the, as you described them, the Death Star at the time. But you wouldn't think of for reading the book.
No. I've got one more thing. So after his injury, he was at Man City. He was totally miserable. And then he says, oh, Alex Ferguson was having a sniff.
Yeah.
He would have gone, wouldn't he?
Oh,
he
absolutely.
would have gone. He would have definitely gone like, he would have said, fuck all the Liverpool shit. I'm an Everton fan. I always was. I'm off to United to win some trophies.
He would have went to Everton too. It's funny, isn't it? Because like now I guess his life now is kind of a Liverpool legend and presumably some kind of club ambassador. But yeah, if the cards had fallen a little bit differently for him, he would have went to their most hated rivals, either United or to Everton. Definitely, without a doubt. But yeah, okay, let's get through. Like I enjoy some of the England stuff. Essentially, Venables was a pile of fun. They should have let him take a penalty instead of Southgate. I don't think anyone.
Christ, I mean, dear Christ. Yeah, you look back on that decision now, don't you? It's just like, bloody hell, that one was a bit obvious. Yeah, the England stuff was harsh. But again, it really does just show you success is all there is in football. I sometimes, people talk about Harry Kane like he's never won anything. But man, he will attach himself to anything with a bit of success. And like that was his finest squad. He played like 20 minutes, right, the whole tournament. But still, he felt, that was the best he ever had. And he basically didn't contribute at all.
He had a hard time under Ericsson, I think, right? Which is why he hates Ericsson. But he had a hard time under Hoddle as well. And of course, Hoddle is odd, unapproachable, inflexible. He would make everybody, the strikers, line up and he would just do crosses and the wingers would have to sit on their asses as he was doing the crosses and showing them how to do it and that kind of stuff. But there was some of that interest. Like he talked about the Eileen Drury stuff.
So when he did go and see Eileen Drury, I went in and she put her hands on me. Kind of warm they were, and it was a funny sensation. She asked me a few questions. I mumbled a few responses, and then she pulled away after about 3 minutes. Said she couldn't do anything for me because I had 3 demons in there swirling around and fucking me up. That is genuinely quite hardcore weird, isn't it? That is hardcore weird. That is not going to help you play football better.
No, and I'd like to know what the demons are, Robbie.
Well, he said someone else had like 5 demons, so then.
Oh, it was Gaza.
Of course it was. Maybe she knew her stuff, right? Maybe she did.
That's mad, isn't it? I wonder how much it influenced Hoddle.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was totally into it, right? That he'd talk about it on the record.
So she would go up to him and say, Fowler, he's got 3 demons, that guy. And then he's just crossing his name off the team sheet.
Yeah, that could. I mean, he wouldn't admit to that, would he? But maybe he was.
That is bonkers, if that's true.
If there's even an outside possibility. Yeah, that's nuts.
Like if he, whatever, about 3 demons, 5 demons is presumably enough,
Yeah, 5 demons is 2 demons too many. I think it was sort of downplayed at the time, like, it's just a thing, it's there if you want it. But he gives the impression that Hoddle would look down on you if you didn't
absolutely
go and partake of it.
But it's like it was Eileen Drury, and Eileen Drury's husband was somehow involved as well. It sounds like they were deeply embedded in the whole operation.
Yeah, it does sound weird now with the benefit of hindsight. But, we have to thank that because it does give us the most famous football anecdote in, 90s football, right? That's number one, isn't it? The short back and sides with old beauty parlour. That is the most famous anecdote in 90s football. I'd say so. What's another one bigger than that? That's so famous, isn't it? Like, I can remember telling that story to people at the time. I'm pretty sure I said to my mum and dad, like, this is funny. Check this out. Like, and, old Ray Parlour, mum, no. Dad, yes, he didn't. But she sat down, put her hands on, short back and sides, please, and that's it. He don't play for England again. Ha ha.
So Ericsson was a boring old fart, and he said it. I guess maybe here he sounds a bit like a Sam Allardyce character in the sense that Ericsson was just a negative long ball merchant who didn't inspire players or talk generally. He says he got away with it because he was a foreigner, so everybody thought he was this slick motherfucker. But he was actually boring and rubbish.
I mean, England were terrible, aside from that 5-1, and that papered over so many cracks. But I don't remember the long ball thing, and it's certainly what he always fires at any manager he doesn't care for. Like, long ball merchant.
Well, for him, I suppose, if a manager wants to play anything kind of direct, then that's Fowler on the bench. I guess that's why he's so sensitive to that. Because what use is he in that situation if he can't hold the ball up? He's not big, and he's not unusually fast.
Yeah. Chocolate teapot. Poor Robbie.
Chocolate teapot.
Oh, come on. No?
No.
No? Hey? Fucking hell. It means it's useless. Chocolate teapot is useless. You never heard that? Fucking hell.
Let it out now.
Can I just go back to the goal celebration? This is Robbie Fowler this is quote regarding the coke sniffing celebration. Am I going to do Liverpool? Yeah. Must admit, I was sick of all the abuse they'd thrown at me along with the pies and all the chants that always came up with me about being a smackhead. It really did my head in, and I had enough. So we decided that if I scored in the Everton end, then I would take the piss in proper style by getting down on my knees and sniffing the line in front of them. My idea was simple. As a message, it was... Do you know what the message was? Take that, you cunts. Very nuanced. That was the message. I don't know how that gets to sticking up with Everton's fans' balls. It's like, I'm embarrassed now, calling him a smackhead. Oh, there's another nice story about the drugs, which I thought was quite sweet. And he was in a hotel with his friends, and this girl comes up to him and goes, "Would you like a bit of Charlie?" And he was like, no, I'm happily married. And he thought he was being offered a girl called Charlie. And his friends still laugh at him about that to this day because he's such a sweet, innocent little man.
Yeah, well, if that's true.
What? I had no idea. Charlie. That's drugs. I didn't know.
That
made me laugh.
Julio's reaction to the grass sniffing was probably funnier than the grass sniffing itself.
Rigobert's song had cows, right, in his native
Cameroon.
Yep. So it was a tribute to Rigobert's song's cows eating grass.
Eating grass. So okay, but the meat of the book really is the Julio stuff, isn't it? And this, there's a lot of axe grinding in this book. That's what we said about Cruyff. And I think it's a bit unfortunate. I think maybe it's funny because you want them to be honest. Then on some level, I was just thinking he really did himself a disservice. And I wonder, is it because he wrote it when he did, Like you're saying.
I honestly feel an editor has probably said, we can cut this, we can cut this, we can cut this. And he said, no fucking way. No. I want people to know that Gerald Houllier made the dinner ladies come in on Christmas Day. I want them to know. The world has to know. Well, you'll be happy now, won't you, Robbie? Because Houlier's dead. You'll be happy now, dancing on his grave.
He did tweet. Thank you, boss.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Nice bit of research there, Johnny.
So there you go.
Yeah, maybe it's softened towards him because, in 2005, Robbie Fowler fucking, I mean, it is interesting to me how he does soften at the end, like, oh, I heard there was a chance I could go back to Liverpool. I'm sure I could patch it up with Julio. He's like, as long as he doesn't read your fucking book, mate. If he reads your book, you're never going back, son. Like, because, mate. And if we still got Phil Thompson there, I mean, like, he must have been in absolute hell. And the new manager is Gerard Houllier. Oh, no, who's going to be as assistant? Phil Thompson, your old mate. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, dear God.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so essentially, Houllier is a pompous, self-important asshole and was kind of sneaky and underhanded, and he would say things like, "You're central to my plans, Robbie," but then he would go and plan stories about Robbie in the media and call up journalists and attack them when they're positive about Robbie's performance and this kind of stuff. If he is as Fowler describes him, he's a total asshole.
Yeah, I mean, if he is, as Fowler described, he is one of the great monsters from history, isn't he?
I think he says that Evans thought that Julio was being brought in as his assistant, essentially. But then Julio obviously was brought in as his co-manager, which was just so ludicrous at the time, and obviously would be in any time. And then he worked to undermine Evans and kind of countermand his orders and that kind of thing, you know. So he worked to get rid of Evans, and then he was not the man that they thought they were getting involved, because he didn't bring any good young players whatsoever. He spent loads and loads of money on loads of shit players from France. And like he said, there was some decent boys like Sami Hyypiä, but he does give a list of players, and it is a pretty damning list of players.
Yeah, Anthony Letalak was the last one that I remember from the list without looking at it. It's like, how many goals did they score? Not many.
Even people like Titi Kamara.
But how many times did they spread their arse cheeks in order for Graham Lasso to fuck them? Like, none. That's why they were playing, because they weren't doing that. Now, if I can move on to that, Johnny. Now, this book was written in 2005, because if that book was written today, man, he would word it differently, wouldn't he? Because he is not sorry one bit about doing that. Not one bit. Oh, I got in all this trouble. I didn't do anything. Nobody got hurt. Nobody. He reads The Guardian. And yet the broadsheets went after him. This was a first. Like, The Guardian went after him because apparently The Guardian loved Graham Lasso because he read The Guardian. So, like, they were up in arms. He would word it differently nowadays, wouldn't he? He would say, oh, well, I realise now in the heat of the moment what I did was very offensive and childish. But he was not sorry at all.
Well, he was saying puff and stuff, wasn't he, in the book?
Yes.
Yeah, there's no way he would be writing that in a book. No, absolutely not.
But again, obviously, if you're his manager, you're not impressed by that stuff.
Do you believe that Johan Cruyff whispered into Robbie Fowler's ear to not let Houllier grind him down? Don't let the bastard grind you down, Robbie.
Well, I was thrilled by the intersection of the book. So I was like, oh, that's very pleasing, isn't it? Like a little word from Johan.
Well, the story is they played in the UEFA Cup final, in which they beat his son, Jordi. But then Johan was presenting the trophy, and this was part of the treble that Liverpool won in, whenever it was, 2001, was it? Yeah. And yeah, Johan leaned over to Robbie and said, don't let Houllier get you. You're a great player. Yeah, it seemed a bit far-fetched to me, to be honest.
Yeah, and me.
Yeah.
I don't deny that he maybe said something to him, but, it's a lot to expect Johan Cruyff to be up to speed with the team dynamics of the Liverpool FC, isn't it? It's just like, I don't know. I've been keeping an eye on. I see you've been on the bench more than I was expecting, Robbie. I mean, it just doesn't sound likely.
Yeah, okay. That was it. And of course, Houllier messing with the dinner ladies. He's obviously not a good man. But when it all came to a head, one day Robbie was practicing shots and the ball hit the net and nearly hit Phil Thompson, who had an absolute total meltdown. And this was, as you say, Phil Thompson was Houlier's assistant. And this was the beginning of the end for Robbie. That was the end of it, really.
Well, it's all just a pathetic story, isn't it? Like, it's schoolboy stuff. So he was saying he booted the ball in the side netting, right? And Phil Thompson said, hey, that could have hit me. And he goes, And he says the only way it could have hit you is if I'd kicked a pair of scissors first, which had cut through the net, and then the ball had gone through, which was a very, very weird way of saying that. Like, the only way, listen, no, fucking listen. The only way I could have hit Tomo was if I fucking kicked a pair of scissors first. Well, I mean, I don't know if kicking a pair of scissors at the net is going to cut it anyway, so I'm not sure that's going to work.
That would be a heck of a skill.
Yeah, I mean, that's a scissor kick for you, Johnny.
Hey. I forgot about Julio's heart attack, but then you could sense from Robbie that he saw some possibility here when Julio had the heart attack.
Well, he had to word that all very carefully, didn't he? Because I bet you he heard about that heart attack and he was doing a little cheer, doing a little happy dance. But in the book, he's like, what awful news that was about this man I fucking hate, who I believe is personally responsible for thwarting all of my ambitions. But I was absolutely horrified to hear he had a heart attack. But yeah, it didn't turn out well, mate. Who comes in to replace him? His old mate, Tomo. Hey!
Thompson. And he says that Thompson kind of, it was supposed to be Sammy Lee and Thompson, but Thompson kind of pushed Sammy to the side. Little old Sammy Lee was pushed to the side so Tomo could have his day in the sun.
Poor old Sammy Lee, eh? I mean, he's one of them players, eh? Great player, but he always seems to be just this little Igor for other footballing men. There's a famous story, eh? He was in the back of a car with Sam Allardyce unwrapping his Werther's original for him. You ever heard that? I can't remember who it was. Some player, he said he's in the back of a car with like Sammy Lee and Big Sam, and well, I've just said it, and like every time he wanted Werther's original, Sammy Lee would get one out of his pocket, unwrap it, and give it to him.
That's unbelievable. Yeah, like so that was kind of it, you know. They were just trying to get rid of him at this stage. Liverpool were trying to sell him to different teams, and he kept saying, this is an extremely repetitive book, but he kept saying that Chelsea wanted to buy him, but he went to Leeds.
Because he didn't like the money situation at Chelsea.
He went to Leeds as like 2 months before the club collapsed, totally imploded, and just a few months before Abramovich bought Chelsea. So Jesus, like what a choice he made.
That really is one of those what ifs. Because as a football fan, I would love to have seen Robbie Fowler play for Chelsea back in those days. That would have been great.
Yeah, it's funny when he's at Leeds and he says, we're not the wild men we were portrayed as. And then but Fowler goes on to talk about being arrested and crashing a tuk-tuk in China. They were having a wild time.
It was a rickshaw, wasn't it? It was a rickshaw. And apparently the rickshaw driver was in the back, and I noticed the rickshaw driver was laughing his head off as he crashed into some... Yeah. You can imagine a tuk-tuk driver just, you crashed into us. That's funny. I can't afford that.
So from Collymore to Anelka, he's kind of his heir in a way, isn't he?
Yeah, well, very much so too. As the ego lads.
It's the primary brick in English football.
Yeah, and they do stand out as well, don't they? Like they do. Like they really were bad lads.
So sorry, this is Fowler leaves Leeds after this director comes up and tells him to take the money and run because whatever, the whole thing is collapsing. So Fowler leaves, but he was trying to leave anyway. And then he goes to Man City and he had a bad old time at Man City. He says one of the best things that ever happened to him was getting voted third in their player of the season or something. It was just pretty low light, if you want.
That's it. The fact that is worthy of comment in a career as storied as Robbie Fowler's is kind of tragic. And yeah, the whole Man City thing, everything about it is awful, isn't it? There's all sorts of things. He was getting fined. There's one point he just fucked off and he got a big fine, and then he said he hated football. But that seemed a bit weak, and they said he wasn't going to get fined, but he did get fined, and that was all a big kerfuffle. But he really hated it at City, right? He really, really did. But yeah, it's funny. The whole book's like, oh yeah, Keegan went. It was time he went, and Stuart Pearce knows his stuff. Oh yeah. But then in the epilogue, it's like Stuart Pearce is a bad manager because he never picks me.
Just in that epilogue, because as you say, it's written when he re-signs for Liverpool. Did this stand out to you? It said, he said, Paula, secretary at Liverpool, almost cried when I re-signed. Almost.
Almost cried, yeah.
But yeah, that's it, isn't it? Have you got anything else?
No. So he's all right. He's made a lot of mistakes, hasn't he? He has made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, it's a shame for him, I think, that he didn't win a bit more, because the mistakes that he made could just look kind of badass. And even I think I think he still could try and wear that stuff a bit better than he did in this book.
Yeah, I think, there's some self-pity. He's not very he hasn't really done much wrong, has he? There's not much to apologize for. It's not like some people.
No, exactly. And that's why he should have worn it better. Like, he should have been like, yeah, like, sniff the thing because it's funny.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's very much a book of its time, right? He's there to settle some scores. He's there to explain himself. There's zero self-reflection. Zero.
He spares us the family stuff, which I appreciated.
Yep. Thank you for that.
So yeah, what do you reckon? What do you give this book?
Yeah, well, it's way, 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 way too long. You're quite right. I mean, when I picked it up and it said 9 hours and 25 minutes, I said, you've got to be kidding. And it's only when he's 30.
480 pages.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's surprisingly bitter, is my take from it. I think he's full of regrets. I think he just wishes if he'd taken some different steps at different times, his career could have been so different.
He wrote this book at a time when he was he was essentially he was in the middle of this Man City nightmare. So maybe it was a particularly bad time for him. Maybe it was bad timing for him to write this book, because I suppose his career wasn't turning out how he hoped it would. It was before the Liverpool kind of whatever, when he went back to Liverpool, which at least kind of gave it a nice arc as a story and some kind of, he could go back and for some unfinished business there. But yeah, maybe it was a bad time in his life for him to be writing a book.
Well, that's it, because he was having a miserable time at Man City and he watched Liverpool win the Champions League.
Yep. He was there.
And that must have been painful.
That must have hurt.
If you're not a Liverpool fan, I wouldn't really recommend this book.
No.
I think you're fine. I think, we've covered all the big bits.
And how many flying scissors is...
Yeah, kick scissors.
How many kick scissors would you give how many demons? How many kicks?
Oh, yeah, he's got 2 demons in him.
Yeah.
This book's got 2 demons in it.
2 demons. 2. I think I'll give it 2.5, because I think some of the stuff was interesting. Joliet was interesting. Ericsson was interesting. Collymore and Elke, just because he hates them all so much. And even the Beckham and Neville stuff, even though there's no kind of elaboration on that. He just takes...
No, there's no elaboration on that. It's just
contempt. He just gratuitously attacks them here and there.
Yeah, but this book is written for Liverpool fans, isn't it? I think you don't need to. I think it, they'll all just...
But then he shouldn't have said that he thought about going to Everton and Manchester United, like.
Yeah, that was one of those moments, wasn't it? That was one of those moments. And who can blame him? But...
It sounds like Ferguson wanted him when he was younger.
Imagine him then. If you'd had Robbie Fowler instead of Andy Cole.
It's funny with Andy Cole. People are never kind about Andy Cole. My mother never watched all that much football, but me and my brothers, my father, were all watching a lot of United, and she always said that Andy Cole looked really, really sad, so she became like a huge Andy Cole fan. It's quite sweet, isn't it? Yeah, okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening, folks. Please do like us on any of the things that you listen to us on, because that seems to help.
For episode 20.
20? Go on.
We will be doing the autobiography of Brian Clough, the greatest football manager in the history of football. Manager of the greatest team in the history of football.
I guess I'll be taking a bit of a backseat for this particular episode.
I'll have plenty to say.
How's your Clough impression?
Needs work. But I'll do that work. I will do that work before the next episode.
And yeah, thank you very much, Al. See you for episode 20.
Thank you very much, Johnny.